On the midday news earlier today, I have been joined on the phone by the North Tongue MP, but before I speak to him, let's hear from the Chief of Staff, Fremont Parry. She's been dismissing the allegations, describing it as propaganda that should have no place in the education sector. She spoke to my colleague Prince Kwame Kudoga on the sidelines of the National Education Week ongoing here in Accra.
The education sector in Ghana is moving forward to catch up with the modern trends. We are not late. What we are doing is helping our students to have critical minds. So they create. They are not just imbibing knowledge, but they are actually creating knowledge. And I think we need to support the education agenda that the government has. This transformative agenda is worth supporting.
But then the issue about some expired rights served to students, has it come to your notice, and are you worried about that?
It is, it is not true. So please, let us focus on things that move this country forward. I think this is our problem. We have good things. Look at what I've just seen. That should be your focus. How you advance the Ghanaian child, how you improve their opportunities so they become good citizens. Propaganda and rumor mongering has no place in education exhibition. Thank you.
And that's the Chief of Staff, Fremont Parry, there interacting with my colleague Prince Kwame Kudoga earlier today on this subject matter. She describes this as propaganda and rumor mongering and that it has no place in the education sector. MP for North Tongue, Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa, is with us on the line. We are grateful for your time here on Newsnight. So, two key issues comes up at this point. The Ministry of Education insists that the wholesomeness of these rice, or the rice that was distributed in February, has been confirmed by the FDA and that there's no problem at all. What then is your concern?
Good evening to you, MFA. The Ministry of Education, I have always insisted, is complicit. The evidence I have shows that any credible, impartial, independent investigation will expose them. And I know it's just a matter of time. Fortunately, if they refuse to call for a national inquiry into this matter, in a few days, a new government will take over. And all those complicit, those who have engaged in this criminal act, will not go unpunished. I give you full assurance. The evidence is clear. If you read the 6 February 2024 examination results from the FDA, you have a copy. You see the FDA stating clearly that this Moshosho rice contains insects, is insect infested. It also says that it did not meet the standard for fat acidity, that it has very high fat acidity. Indeed, if you read the 29th December internal memo of the Food and Drugs Authority, the FDA set out to do 3 things. First, to immediately issue an order to Lamens and the National Food Buffer Stock Company not to proceed with the criminal rebargain. We did not have the authorization of FDA. 2, the FDA was moving in to dispose of, to destroy the rice. They knew that the rice was not fit for consumption, was not safe for consumption. And then 3, they were moving in to sanction Lamens. What we should be asking is that what changed? What changed between 29 December and thereafter? That now, suddenly, the Education Ministry is producing a dubious document claiming that the FDA granted approval.
Well, let me come in on this. The bit about you describing this particular document as dubious is the concern. Really, on what basis do you say that this FDA test or the results or the findings of the FDA or the FDA issuing a letter to say that this rice is actually wholesome? The concern we are told is that the FDA did not move in because of the unwholesomeness of this particular product, but the fact that they were repackaging on the blind side of the FDA.
Again, that is not true. When you read the 6 February test results from the FDA, it's clear that the rice was unwholesome, that it was insect infested, and that it had high fat acidity, and that they were not wholesome. Look,
but subsequent tests were conducted.
Let us not forget that apart from the FDA saying this, there are two credible organizations. The Auditor General conducted an audit in 2021 and indicted the same company, Lamens. That Lamens is notorious for delivering contaminated food to our secondary schools. Read page 133 and 142 of the 2021 Auditor General's report. Then also read the PIAC report. So, I mean, what I am saying, what the NDC caucus in Parliament is saying, and what FDA itself initially found out. Remember that there had been an arrest on the 20th of December. Then calls started coming from above. You have seen the 21st December 2023 letter from the Ashanti Regional Police Command.
That we've seen.
Yes, signed by J.J. Boy, superintendent in charge of crime. Ask them why they were compelled to release the suspects. And why is it that up to date, nobody has been prosecuted? Why is it that Lamens admitted to culpability? Look, if the Ministry of Education is claiming that nothing untoward had happened, a number of questions arise. Why is it that if Lamens, you are doing nothing wrong, you have shelf life extension, why did you have to read back? That's a fundamental question we must all be asking.
That's the question we've been asking.
Why did they have to read back in different packaging? Instead of made in India, they say ECOWAS rice, made in Ghana. And then in violation of LI 1541, which mandates every food vendor, food manufacturer, food dealer to make sure you have an expiry date or a best before date or a sell-by date. None of that was provided. Now they are claiming that there was some dubious extension to April 2024. How do you expect the headmasters in these secondary schools across the country to know that the date for expiry is April 30th, 2024?
But Mr. Ablakwa,
when it was not indicated, when that letter was not shared, it has just popped up in these last few days. How were they to know? When you compel the headmasters, I've spoken to them. Some of them who raised concerns were threatened to shut up. Because under no condition should heads of our institution be forced to receive food without expiry date.
But Mr. Ablakwa, on what basis then do you insist that this particular letter we are seeing from the FDA is dubious, when in fact the letter is passing the rice as wholesome?
So the FDA will have to be explaining to us how.
But you are describing it as dubious. Why are you describing it as dubious?
Because all the documents I have intercepted, the report signed by the Ashanti regional head. I'm glad that you have spent time to read copiously excerpts from that report. You see the FDA indicting Lamens and NAFCO. Indeed, NAFCO, as we speak, has still not registered their storage facilities. That conspiracy with Lamens to carry out this rebargain was condemned. Then you see the FDA examination results dated 6 February saying that this rice did not conform to standards so far as insect infestation and fat acidity are concerned.
So you insist that the subsequent steps that were taken to remedy the situation is not enough?
Until this expose. Look, isn't it strange that a ministry that feigned ignorance? You remember when you interviewed Kwesi Kwarteng, when I first broke this story, he said that, look, this is shocking, it's come to them as a surprise. Meanwhile, the FDA report reveals that in January of this year, they spoke to the Deputy Minister of Education, Reverend Johnny Timfojo, and that Reverend Johnny Timfojo, this Ministry of Education, could have stopped this, could have stopped the distribution of this as far back as January, before the food was distributed in February.
Okay.
So there are so many things that do not add up. There's lack of integrity. There's lack of compliance. There's lack of, the adherence to our Public Health Act at 851, the LI 1541, And the double standards, the hypocrisy.
You've heard the chief of staff. You've heard the chief of staff this evening.
It is the health of our children that is at stake.
Well, we'll be hearing from some parents, Mr. Ablakwa, but in wrapping up with you, you've heard from the chief of staff. She describes this as propaganda and just rumor mongering. That's not healthy for the education sector.
I am disappointed in the chief of staff. This is an elderly woman I have enormous respect for, but it appears that she's learning from her boss. She also wants to be a clearing agent. You are chief of staff. Such a matter. You don't just dismiss it with a wave of the hand. Chief of staff, summon the Minister of Education, summon the NAFCO Chief Executive, the NAFCO Board, summon the FDA. Ask for, at least, do your own preliminary independent investigations before you just say it's propaganda. I mean, what work did she do as Chief of Staff? If this is how she works as Chief of Staff, somebody who must coordinate all of these institutions that have let us down, institutions who have disappointed parents, who have put children at risk. And as a mother, all you do is just, oh, this is untrue, this is propaganda, without any verification. I'm totally appalled, I'm disgusted, and I'm disappointed in Madame Frema for this conduct. This is not how a chief of staff should behave.
We'll leave it here for now. We're grateful. That's enough Tongue MP, Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa. Let me take some brief words from the Executive Director of the Africa Education